Hey, welcome to Whitefields Community Church Sermon Extra. Pastor Mike here with Pastor Nick here at Whitefields Community Church here in Longmont, Colorado. And we are in our series, Desiring the Kingdom, and we have now come to 2 Kings as we have made our journey through the book of 1 Kings and now began our the first couple of chapters in 2 Kings, and the title of Sunday's sermon was The Legacy of Your Life, right? And if you missed that sermon, you can go over to whitefieldschurch.com and you can download it there, or you can catch it on YouTube and Facebook. And if you wouldn't mind, just give us a like, subscribe, ring that bell, share it with your friends, just to get the word out as far as wide as you can, so we get this gospel-centered, Christ-centered content out so that it can speak into people's lives and bless them on their journey as a Christian. And so we're here in 2 Kings chapter 1 and chapter 2, and we look at Elijah, and Elijah gets caught up in the whirlwind. And so the question is that did Elijah really go to heaven? It says he gets caught up into heaven, but how could he have gone to heaven if Jesus has not yet come as the Messiah for his people?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that people have wondered about, because it clearly says he was caught up to heaven. But what you need to understand is that there are three heavens in the ancient mind and in the Jewish mind. And those three heavens would be like what we call the atmosphere, like where the clouds are, like when you fly in an airplane, where you go. And then I believe it might be called the stratosphere, right? So this would be like what we call outer space, like where the space station is, where the moon and the other planets are. And then there's the idea of heaven in the sense, this is called the third heaven. So first, second, third heaven being a place that's not necessarily a geographical place. And in fact, I would say it's not a geographical place at all. It's a spiritual realm. And it's the place of God's dwelling. It's the place... it's not that if you could get out of our solar system, somehow you would eventually get to this land called heaven. No, this is a place that's not geographically located. It's a spiritual realm. And so when Paul talks about this in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, he says, I know a man, and he reveals that it was himself. He says, I know a man, and he was caught up to the third heaven. That's what we're talking about here, is the idea of the third heaven. And so the question is, when Elijah was caught up, did he go to the third heaven? Meaning, like, the third heaven would be Isaiah chapter 6. He gets a vision of the throne room of God. And I would say the answer to that is no. He was caught up to heaven in the sense that he was caught up into the sky, into the atmosphere, perhaps the stratosphere. But God took him and he went to... what I would say would be Abraham's bosom. Now, in the Jewish mind, Sheol, right, which is something we read about in the Old Testament, David says, if I descend into Sheol, Lord, you are there. Basically, I cannot escape your presence. And that can be confusing for people because sometimes people think that Sheol means hell. But Sheol is more than just hell. For the Jewish person, Sheol is the dwelling place of the deceased. It's where deceased souls go when they die. Now, Sheol, we see like in Luke chapter 16, there's a great description of it that Jesus gives us. It's divided into two areas, or at least it was before Jesus died, resurrected, and led captives in his train, as it says. The division of Sheol, it was divided into two parts. One part was called Abraham's bosom. This is a place of waiting for those who died in faith in God and in the Messiah. So we're thinking like Abraham justified by faith as he trusted in God. So we refer to these people as the Old Testament saints. There's a great list of them. Some of them, I don't believe all of them, listed in Hebrews chapter 11. And so... and then the other half of this, Sheol, would be Hades or hell, which are the same thing. Just different names for them in different languages, Hades being a Greek term, right? So Hades and hell, and what we see in Luke 16, Jesus tells a story. What's interesting, it's not a parable, right? It's a story. He says there was a rich man named, we don't know the rich man's name, and then there was a guy named Lazarus. And in life, they had very different modes of living, right? The poor man, he's basically homeless. The rich man had a great life. They die. The rich man goes to hell. The other man goes to Abraham's bosom. And again, that's a place of comfort as you await the eventual redemption of your soul by the Messiah who's coming. So one of the questions people ask, what did Jesus do when he was in the grave for 3 days? Well, one of the things that historically Christians have believed, like it's in the Apostles' Creed even, that Jesus descended into the depths, right? He descended to Sheol. And then it says, like in Ephesians 4 and in 1 Peter, that he carried captives in his train. And so it would seem that Jesus went and declared to those in Abraham's bosom that he had redeemed them, and he led them to the third heaven, the express presence of God. So where did Elijah go? Let's say, to be consistent with everything we read in the Bible, I think we'd have to say Elijah was caught up to heaven in the sense he's caught up to the first or second heaven, the stratosphere or the atmosphere, but he was taken to the third heaven with that train that Jesus redeemed from Abraham's bosom during the 3 days that he was in the grave.
Well, okay. Well, yeah, because I think that's a very confusing topic sometimes for people, is that what is Sheol, hell, what is heaven, and some of those terms. It was good for you to be able to define some of those things, and let us know what you think about these as well. As maybe it's something that's confused you. I mean, it has for me. I don't always have an answer for that. What is Sheol? Is it are people still there? And so this is a question, that many people have. So if you have still some thoughts about that, hey, let us know. Comment on this video, and we'll get back to you and on that as well. And if you missed the sermon, whitefieldschurch.com, you can download it here, you can subscribe here, and we'll see you next week. God bless.